Hey, I appreciate you checking out the video here. So over the last 5 years, I've painted about 11 of these hockey masks, and I'm going to show you 6 strategies you can take to start getting paying clients with these. So the goalie masks are not only a lot of fun to do, but I've charged anywhere from $900 to $2,500 for each one that I've done over the years. I think this can be a great option for especially beginners to incorporate into your business and start generating extra income, but also for someone that's well established, you're going to be even more of an obvious choice for someone that's looking to have one of these painted. And the fact that they're commonly custom painted, but they do get beat up quite a bit, to me is kind of like the main obvious reason why they can be a good choice, with just being kind of a reoccurring sort of revenue. A lot of the hockey players I've worked with have had me paint multiple masks, so that's the only reason why I say that. Usually if they get one painted, they're going to want to get them all painted. So these are some of the masks that I've done over the years that I just wanted to show you, but I also want to get into the business strategy side of this and go over a business model that you can implement right away to start seeing some paying customers. And I was also going to go over with you just a little bit of the process with the gold one that we showed at the beginning. And I didn't film the whole thing, all the little details, but I just put together kind of a easy to comprehend 5-step process that shows how to paint one of these from beginning to end without having, all the equipment and, compressor, spray gun and all that. So real quick, I just wanted to touch on some of the reasons and some of the sort of proof and evidence that I just wanted to show you real quick, so you can see that this really is an obvious great addition for any custom art business. Yeah, these guys are pretty dedicated to what they do, and there's a lot of costs that are involved with getting started playing hockey, but also you'll see these guys get injured, and as soon as they can, they're right back out there. They also see all of the top NHL pros that all have their masks painted, all the goalies. And so it's kind of something that's probably even on their mind when they're purchasing the hockey mask, and they're probably thinking, oh man, I'd love to do this or that on there. If there's just one reason alone that would compel you to want to try this, I would think it's the fact that these helmets actually expire. And so you can see here on the left, you can see the manufacturer date is 2023, and then on the right you can see it's 2030. So they have about a 7-year lifespan, and I don't think there's any other, there's not one other item I can think of that is commonly custom painted that actually has an expiration date. But let me know in the comments if you know of anything like this that expires and that gets painted on a regular sort of basis. The next couple videos we're going to be doing some similar items, not similar to hockey, but other things that can tend to get beat up a little bit and replaced, but are known to have some custom artwork. Another thing that was pretty interesting is here you can read on this screenshot that USA Hockey saw player memberships reach an all-time high in 23 and in 24, along with a new record for the youth players, as well as the female league is continuing to grow as well. So you can Google this yourself. I just put in hockey participation statistics. So no matter what kind of artwork you do or what kind of tools you choose to paint with, I think just being as open-minded and diverse of an artist is going to bring in the most money for your art business, help you to make the most money with your artwork. Regardless of if it's done on something that's automotive or a motorcycle or sports equipment. I've painted airplane propellers, watercraft. I just had somebody that brought in this little radio flyer, little red wagon to paint something on. There's literally, it's endless. There's millions of things that anybody can bring you. So you just got to be open-minded enough so you can make a good living doing this. Like with this, I don't even play hockey myself, but I think it's really cool. The sport itself is pretty wild, and just understanding that there's more than, I just see so many people that get into artwork or any kind of painting, even if it's automotive, and they say, okay, I'm just going to paint cars. Or there's a lot of helmet painters. There's a lot of guys that say, hey, I'm just going to paint helmets. A lot of people that just paint on canvas and go, okay, I'm just going to paint I think the canvas and the wall art can be some of the most limiting because it goes on the wall and it generally just stays there. All this kind of stuff is a great vehicle for your name as an artist and all your artwork to be able to travel around and people to see it and bring in so many great opportunities for you. But on the other hand, there is a lot of people that do want the wall artwork. That's a great thing. I mean, I love it myself, and it's going to be an awesome thing to have displayed for sale at your business so people can see and just pick some up from you, pick something up cool that they want to throw up at their house or garage or place of business. And I think with getting something like this done, I think the expense of it is definitely going to be expected from anyone that's having you do something like this. Just like, when you're at a car show and people are talking about paint jobs and what goes along with it, the cost, the high cost of that is something that's part of that conversation. And same thing with guys that play hockey together. They're well aware that's going to cost them. They're not going to go in and expect you to just do this or get something for free. I've seen a lot of great artists too literally just use paint brushes with doing this and create some pretty badass helmets with what looks like very little to maybe no airbrush artwork. So there's multiple ways you can do this. So with all that being said, I think there's a lot of obvious reasons, for you to understand that this is a great idea amongst many other categories that you should have for a well-rounded art business. And the bottom line is people really do need and want these done. They literally dream of having these painted. And you have the amazing talent and ability to be able to help them achieve and accomplish their dreams, really. So, great position to be in. You can earn good money doing this and have a well-rounded art business that can thrive and do a lot of really fun stuff with it. So right now I'm going to get into the business strategy side of this and the steps that you can take next to start seeing some more profit with your art business. And this process can be used for any of the categories that we've discussed, whether that be something automotive, other sports equipment, watercraft, electronics, anything really. So I've used this same sort of techniques to make tens of thousands of dollars over the last 11, 12 years. So some of this stuff might seem obvious to some, but I just want to make sure we cover everything for the beginners and anyone. I mean, there's stuff that I may think is obvious, but maybe not everyone has heard of, and for you the same. So one of the most important things that you have to have as an artist, and something that has brought in a good portion of all the clients I've had over the years, has been just good old-fashioned business cards. So I know that may sound bizarre to some people, maybe especially if you're younger, and it may sound just blatantly obvious to people that are, a little more established in life, but I'm just going to go over the basics and have just our kind of tools that we need to be able to then move into the actual real proven strategies that I've used over the years. So you can see in this picture with the business card and the previous one that the cards were made from some photos that I took of this artwork. And you can see that this is an old side mirror for an older truck. And you can take some cool things like that and really have maybe some signage with your business name on it for clients to see, but you don't even have to do that as far as getting a business card. There's multiple places online you can have these made and go on in there, design it the way you want it, and it's pretty affordable, I think, for most people. So the next thing that's obviously pretty important is your overall online visibility. And a lot of people think that just the big businesses and big stores can have like a business page set up on the search engines, but anybody can set up one on there. And then from there, you can also connect your other social media like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, even things like LinkedIn seem to be becoming more popular nowadays. So that there's plenty of options that you can do there. And then like with Google, you can list all your social media on there so people can see all that. Even your, a good website is going to be key to just people taking you seriously and seeing that you have a lot established online. The one thing that I've used over the years, I've designed multiple websites on the Wix website designer. It's Wix. and you can go on there and build your own website. It's, I'm not a very computer skilled person, and it's very easy to go on there and make things look pretty much exactly the way you want, and it's pretty user friendly. And then they also have a checklist for you when you're done building your website, how you can go through and fill in a lot of this information that's going to tie it into the overall search engines and the SEO settings and algorithm and things like that. So now that you got the basics set up and kind of the foundation for your business, it's going to really just give you a lot more confidence when you're talking to clients and knowing that you have an actual business that's sort of set up and ready to get out there and start making some profit. About 15 years ago, when I first moved here, I remember hearing about hockey rinks and games and people practicing and just going to watch and stuff. And I just thought that was pretty wild, being that, it's like 120 degrees or more out here, and being in the Southwest, just something that I never knew was, real. But I was looking it up on here, and there's over 2,500 ice rinks in the U.S. So obviously not everybody's going to have an ice rink in the town where they live, but I think even if it's within driving distance, I mean, it's going to be well worth your time to try this. I know here where I live, there's actually 7 ice rinks, and it's in the middle of a 120 degree desert, which is here in Las Vegas. So this really was one of the main things I did to start getting some genuine interest from clients, and started getting phone calls and inquiries about doing work for quite a few people. And I was pretty surprised. I had business cards and a lot of online things established, but I didn't want to just wait and hope that someone was going to call me, hopefully see me online. So I tried to think of other businesses that could possibly have a request from their customers to want to get something custom painted. And so I went out and took some panels like we're looking at right here, took business cards and went and talked to multiple places. I ended up talking to a place that sells slot machines, and just by having business cards there and talking to them, ended up painting multiple slot machines. And same thing, there was a place, I think they're still here. They make some props and stuff for the casinos, and I painted some of these huge dragonflies for them. Obviously I went to a lot of body shops, automotive places, but really by having some artwork, a panel like this, some business cards, going into an ice rink and asking to speak to a manager or even the owners, if you can talk to them, go in and introduce yourself, explain what you do, and you will be surprised. I didn't really know what to expect when I was getting ready to go in and do this, but I mean, I would get such a great reaction and kind of reception from people that would, I mean, the employees especially, they would just stop what they're doing. I mean, they're genuinely, a lot of people really like this stuff, and they see it and they know what you're trying to not really sell them on. It's not like it comes across like soliciting, it's a lot different, and it's very well welcomed, I would say, anytime I went and did this. So this is something you really need to consider doing. Go in, talk to these people, let them know what you do, and even if you can put up like a flyer, that would be really ideal, because over by the checkout stand, a lot of times ice rinks will have like a snack bar. So if you can work with them and ask them, hey, is it okay if I put up like a flyer here or there? People are going to see that, some of your artwork. And even if you can get a cheaper hockey masks, there's some online that I found that are pretty cheap, like you can see here, and you can get one, paint something cool on it, even have that to bring in, or even talk to them about putting a display up, so there's something that's kind of out of reach from customers and from the public that goes in there to use the facility, but along with maybe some flyers. A lot of places around here, they have little card stands that they allow other local businesses to put their business card there, and so we're kind of help businesses kind of try to help each other out like that. So that was the main thing I was trying to give them when I'd walk in there. I'd have the panel kind of under my arm with the artwork facing me, and I would really just focus on making sure that they got the business card and that they know who I was and that they kind of got the gist of what I was doing. And I would say, and I brought some sample artwork if you wanted to see it, but I just mainly wanted to introduce myself, and I guarantee you that when you say that, they're going to say, yeah, let me see it. I guarantee they're going to want to see what you have facing you under their arm that they can't see at that point. And so I would then show them the panel. They would generally always be pretty enthused and pretty stoked for what they saw. And then I would also have some other panels in my truck, and I would say, yeah, I've got a few more panels in the truck if you wanted to see them, just in case. And I swear, every single time people wanted to go out to my truck, they always wanted to see the rest of the artwork. And this is what ultimately led to being able to work with multiple businesses in my area, start bringing in some profit. And maybe not every single business that I've ever approached, but a lot of them did. And a lot of them kind of, once they know that you're the guy that does it and that you do good work, the guy or the gal, and you're just going to be the go-to person for them from then on. So I know a lot of this may sound a little bit nerve-wracking, especially for some of you that might be just starting off with your art business, and maybe to others it might sound like a little bit of BS, but I'm telling you, having this kind of positive interaction is going to move things forward in your favor big time. And anyone that might not be quite as confident, I'm telling you, you can really do this to make a big change in your career and for your art business, and to start bringing in some profit. And this applies to, like I said, not only just hockey masks, but anything that you want to be painting, or any other business that you might want to be working with. This is going to be a really great option. And there's so much information on really trying to do like all of this online nowadays. And we obviously want to do things like send a follow-up email, maybe try to do something that's catchy, and have maybe just a picture of your business card and things so they can remember and relate. So that's definitely a good thing that you want to have in place. But when you're sending just an email by itself, I feel like it can really get overlooked. And by not having that interaction, it's just not going to leave anywhere near the same impression. That they're not going to have the memory of it like they do when you actually go in there and interact. And so when you're sending an email, you want to try and put something in there that they can maybe repost to their social media. So, and another thing is, you can even go on their social media and, post something like, hey, it was great meeting you guys. Let me know if you ever need anything. And by it being on their social media too is obviously going to be a big plus. And you'll be able to see when the games are. They'll usually post when just any kind of event is that might be beneficial to go down and hand out some flyers. And obviously another place is going to be where they sell hockey equipment, where they sell goalie masks, having a flyer down there as well. And you can get flyers printed up if you have a printer at home. Obviously that's going to be the best way to do it, but you can, there's a lot of entities that will print up flyers or anything for you. UPS shop, Office Max, things like that. And as well, another thing you can do is have sort of a call to action on the flyer, maybe like in a separate, even, neon piece of paper or something that says, ask for a brochure at checkout. If you have brochures there, you can leave with them, or ask for a discount business card, because you can get some specific business cards, or even just little pieces of paper printed up with your info and that shows a discount on there. And that's also going to help to bring interaction with the other person's business that's allowing you to keep those flyers there. You're kind of sending them a direct customer to go up to the checkout, and so it's going to work both ways. And a lot of things like that, you got to get creative and look at as many options as you can. So here's the list of the next steps that you need to take for yourself, for your art business, and for the people in your area that need your amazing talent and artistic ability, so they can pay you and have the good things in their life that they want to have as well. So the first 4 steps is going to be what you want to complete first before you can really want to move on to the 5th and 6th step. But getting everything, little by little. This doesn't cost much money. The business cards you can get, for $10 you can have 50 or 100 business cards. The flyers maybe just, maybe $5 to $10 to get the paper and get this printed up, and just the gas in your vehicle, or however you want to get down there. And that, it's going to be very affordable for you to do this, but very effective. Okay, so I'm going to give you all the exact steps that you need to take to be able to paint one of these. And it's going to be a little more condensed, and I'm going to make it a little quicker, but we are going to cover each step and all the things that you can do with your business to try and grow your income and profit in any ways. You know, it's definitely can be a lot of technical, really boring stuff compared to what we're talking about here. This process in this tutorial, this can be a fun little project you can kind of experiment with your business to bring in more profit. So you can see there, I was just getting inside those little holes and sanding in there and being as thorough as you can. And right here, I've even rolled up a piece of sandpaper to get inside some of these little areas where the fasteners go through, where they hold on the padding and they hold the cage on. So you definitely want to be as thorough as you can. The other thing I'm doing here is right where the mask sits, as the owner is going to be setting it down and handling it on this bottom edge. That definitely needs to be sanded just so the paint can adhere as good and we're not having any chipping down there. And you just want to be wiping this off as you go. Really make sure you sand all the edges of the whole mask. And so right here I want to show you what you're going to be looking for to know when you're done sanding and you're ready to spray your primer. So you can see where the sun is reflecting and it still looks glossy. So those are areas I still need to sand, but as we get onto the side here, you can see we're not really seeing much of a reflection because we've removed all the gloss. So you want to go through and just look at each little section and make sure that, you know, you're removing every little bit of texture or gloss that you see. You can see back there it's sanded, but you can still see the areas that I still need to keep going with. And I started with 400 grit and then I moved to 600 before I started spraying some of this primer and sealer. And this is the brand I use. This is from a brand called U-Pole. And a lot of times it's harder to find sealers in a can, but I started with the high build primer, sanded that, and then I moved to the sealer and then sanded that, and then I was ready to spray my base coat. So you can see here I'm cutting out some shapes that I want to be left black because we're going to paint the rest of this like a metallic gold color. It's going to be really cool looking. And basically I'm trying to make this look like a medieval knight's helmet, like the armor that they wore. And so with the sanding, what I did was it was wet sanded, and just have a cup of water, a couple of drops of soap, and then you can wet sand it, get it ready to spray that sealer that we just talked about. And so what I did after that was I sprayed this black base coat here. So I sprayed the black base coat, and then I put a type of clear coat over that so it was protected, because black can be a little bit problematic with seeing sand scratches coming through and everything. So by spraying a little bit of that, I sprayed what's basically like a carrier for a lot of the pigment that's just a clear base coat instead of the catalyzed one that's a two-part and that takes a lot longer to dry. So this dries pretty much instantly. This is an intercoat clear is what I used from House of Color. And so that makes it so we can go back and sand this existing clear coat that's over my black, protecting it, and then we're ready to lay down these next coats, these next layers of this really cool gold metallic that we're going to use. And you can see here I cut out the shape of the eyelet areas in this medieval helmet kind of that we're trying to make it look like. And so I want to make it look symmetrical, so I'm going to trace out this little eyelet area, and then I'll be able to create another little, basically cut out another piece of tape and then line it up and get it on the other side so we're seeing it nice and symmetrical and everything. And you can see down there by the chin bar, I've kind of got that masked out as the opening for the helmet kind of carries downward, as you can kind of see the knight's mouth and the chin area of their face. So just going through cutting this out, and you can see here I've got it, I covered all that with the tape, and then I did a metallic. I sprayed the House of Color Orion Silver Max, and then I took some pagan gold and I put a little bit of Metajewels in it, and then I sprayed that transparent pagan gold over that metallic. So it turned out pretty good. And this tape I'm using is from a brand called FBS. That's probably a majority of all the tapes I use. I do use some of the 3M stuff too. It's convenient to get, but the FBS is really good. This is a really thin tape that's easy for the blades for the X-Acto to cut through, and you can lay it out and draw on it, and it's transparent so you can see through it as well. That makes it convenient, and I use this for a lot of stuff. So you can see on there, I kind of rushed it along a little bit, and I applied this tape, before that intercoat had a full amount of time to finish kind of venting the fumes off and stuff. So you can see a little bit of marks there, but that stuff will sand right out. That's another reason why we want to have, an intercoat clear between these layers. So if we make a mistake or something like what happened here, that stuff just really easily sands out, and then you're ready to just keep going. So a lot of times this whole process can be simplified. What I could have done here after I primered would be just spray my metallic and my gold and then clear coat over that, and then I'd be ready to do some artwork. But I did need to add the black in the front too. I could have just added that on top of it. So I did a little more of an extensive job with this, but I've done multiple helmets for these guys, and so I want to just do it to where it's as durable and the best result that I can get. And so what I've got here is some more of that FBS gold tape that's laid down, the transparent stuff. And so I'm going to be cutting out these shapes. You can see I've already got them marked out here. And what I did was I printed up the deck, or the little kind of fanned out cards there, and then I printed up the little poker chips where down there, those little circles, there's going to be poker chips, and I'm going to do his number, his hockey number that's on his jersey there. So I printed them up on the computer, and then I shined a light behind these holes. You can see there's the vent holes there, so you can get the image lined up so you don't have some important parts of the image that are going to be where those holes are to where you can't see them. So that's one of the first things that I do with these images with hockey masks, is try and find where they're going to fit the best with all the little venting and stuff that they use on here. And then once I figured that out, then I put some of that gold tape that's easy to cut through in those areas, and then I just cut out the silhouette of these images and placed them where I wanted, and then just sprayed an outline around them with my airbrush. Makes it easy enough to just be able to come back and then cut these shapes out. So I try and bring the back, the handle of the X-Acto down as far as I can, so the blade is almost a little more flat with the surface, and that's going to help it to slice a little better. And I'm really not applying a whole lot of pressure here. This paper works really good to where you can get these cut out, and then you're not seeing cut lines. It's something that you got to kind of get used to and get a feel for. Sometimes you may not go enough, and sometimes you'll go too much. But the other thing you want to be doing is just using newer blades. You can get a small little thing of these new X-Acto blades for pretty cheap at most art centers. And so once it's all cut out here, I'm going to pull these pieces of tape up, and what I'm going to do is I'm trying to be careful with these so I can place this back on there, because you can see that the little rounded part of the chip that it creates makes it look like the chip's in front of the card, sort of. And so I'm going to need to be able to place that back down so I can have the outline of my poker chip down there and paint that once we're done with the cards here. So again, I didn't get this whole entire process, but I did get most of it, and so I'm just kind of going through as much as I can, and I'm going to show you the way I did the supplies in just a minute here too. So I got the artwork all done. I'm going to show you here. You can let me know what you think in the comments if you want. But I really stick to using, the best quality paints I can find. Pretty much all the best stuff I've, been using over the years has been House of Color paint. And so their products and their paint line is designed to be able to bond to other existing coats of paint without having to use the primer and sealer. It's obviously going to be a better idea to do that. And with this, I just wanted a little more durability, because these are going to be getting hit with sticks and stuff. So, but most other things you paint, a lot of times if the paint's in pretty good shape, you can just sand it thoroughly, wet sand it with the 600, and then you'll be able to spray on your next coats, or even just start doing artwork like we're seeing here. And I'm also going to show you a really quick and easy way to spray on a 2-part catalyzed clear without any spray gun, compressor, any equipment at all. So you can see most of the artwork is pretty much finished. I'm just going to be taking some of the cutouts that I used with the tape here and doing some drop shadows below them, making them look a little bit 3D, like they're kind of casting their own shadow. But other than that, this is pretty much ready to clear coat at this point. You can see on the black right there, I accidentally sanded through a little bit back down to the sealer, but that's really easy to touch up, and it still has the sealer, so it's ready to have more coats bonded to it and be ready to fix that and clear coat it. It turned out really good. I'll show you in just a second here. So here's some of the templates I cut out. You can see I just printed these up on my computer after they sent them to me. You can see this is their logo, the Vegas Junior Golden Knights, and I just printed these up on the computer, cut them out with the X-Acto. You can see the customized letters for the card there, and went through, got the 9 there for the poker chips and the little symbols. And yeah, just cut these out and then used them as stencils over the masked out areas there to do all the little details and stuff. So it's pretty simple. So I wanted you to see this really cool product from a brand called Spray Max, and this is a 2-part catalyzed clear that's the same kind of urethane clear that's on all modern vehicles that they spray on them nowadays, and they have for the past probably 40 years or so. And you know, this is a really good product that I've used, I want to say all the way back to like 2016, and it's a pretty durable product. It has the 2 parts inside of the can. You can see here the cap comes with this little red plastic button that you pull out of there, and then you flip the can over, and you know, you put the cap back on the top so you can press down on it without spraying. And so it's got a little stem on the bottom. You put that red button on there and you press that down, and it mixes the 2-part catalyzed clear, just like you would normally have to do with having mixing cups, mixing sticks, filters. You know, it replaces even having a spray gun, air lines, filters, a compressor, you know, a 220 outlet hookup. I mean, you know, all that stuff it replaces with just being in this can. And like I said, I've used this multiple times throughout the years. When you're in a situation where you may not be able or may not want to have to go through and, like I said, you know, having to mix everything up, spray it, clean the gun, you know, a little bit of a process makes it a lot quicker and easier. And especially for someone that doesn't have a lot of experience with spraying clear coat or doing this stuff, you know, the way they designed this spray cap on here, you can turn it 180 to spray, you know, make the fan pattern spray, you know, vertical or horizontal. And just overall, the atomization with this spray cap works really good, so you get a really smooth, like textureless spray out. So for someone that's maybe doesn't have the experience with spraying this, you know, clear and using a gun, I feel like this sprays out for a beginner easier than using a spray gun does. It honestly does. It sprays out flawless, like however they designed that little cap on there. But, you know, I'm not sponsored by this company or any of these companies I've mentioned. I've just had a lot of experience with trying a lot of different things and, you know, narrowing it down to what works and what doesn't. So you can see the end result here. And the owner, when they picked it up, they really liked it. So I think it turned out pretty good, and did the whole inside of it with the gold. So you're maybe not going to always do that on the inside, but it was pretty extensive on this one. And one thing that surprised me on here was this blue pearl on the one side with the cards. I did a little bit in that area too, around that ring area, but this really shocked me when I looked at it. It was like a prismatic, almost holographic look, when, you know, and the camera doesn't really do it justice, I guess, in a lot of cases, but it turned out really cool. It's a really cool effect that you can see there that just completely disappears and then comes back. But what I used on that was another House of Color product, and it's their it's the blue cosmetic styling pearl. So that stuff works pretty good. And then you mix it with the S200, the transnebulae, so it suspends the little particles right and has the UV protection and all that. So added some dice there, just cut those out. Those are pretty simple to do. And yeah, I've got some of these stencils stocked up now. These turned out pretty good. I mentioned them in some of the other videos that we did, and we went over how to cut these out by hand and use them so you don't have to buy anything. But with these, they're really good quality. They can really last for a lot of years. You can see the results here that you can get with these stencils, and they're available at customairbrushart.com. So I really put a lot of time into these, into making them look good and really work right. especially for a beginner, they have around the outside, there's 10 fine line detail templates to detail the skull, as well as a humerus bone above the head there, and then there's a 2-step little bullet hole stencil. So I hope you guys got, as much as you can out of this video, and I hope to have you back for the next one.